Because her mother had supposedly abandoned the family, Emma was forced to shoulder the burden of supporting everyone at a young age. She had to help her father keep the household afloat while also looking after her two innocent younger sisters. At the same time, she worked every week as a maid in the pastor's home, using her tiny wages to help cover the tight expenses of a family of four. Family upheaval and poverty had worn away the carefree innocence she should have had. Luckily, a chance to change her fate finally landed in her lap. A brand new life was almost within reach, until one man's arrival completely changed the course of her future. The story is set in Switzerland in 1943, a small mountain village close to the French border and firmly bound by conservative Protestant disciplines. Emma lives with her father and two young sisters. This family was originally a complete family of five, living in poverty but still living in harmony and stability. But the mother's brief extramarital affair shattered the peace of the entire family. Unable to bear the criticism and endless gossip in the village, the father finally cruelly kicked his wife out of the house. But Emma and her sisters had been kept in the dark about this the whole time. They all thought that their mother abandoned them on her own initiative in pursuit of so-called love. Since her mother left, Emma has shouldered the responsibilities of a mother at a young age. Not only did she do an excellent job at housework, her embroidery was delicate and exquisite, but she was also very organized in keeping accounts, which won her the appreciation of the pastor's wife. In addition to working day after day, she still has a hot ideal hidden in her heart. That is to enter a nursing school for further study and become a nurse who can save lives and heal the wounded in the future. However, the poor family cannot afford the tuition of nursing school. This road seems to be right in front of you, but in fact it is separated by an insurmountable ravine. The only way out before her is to win a moral award from the village mutual aid committee. The original intention of this award is to reward young women with high moral character, and it is also one of the few opportunities for local poor girls to receive help. As long as she could win that money, her long-held dream of becoming a nurse would finally have a chance. When the mutual aid committee evaluated Emma, they decided that if the prize money went to her, it should be used as her dowry. But when they heard Emma's wish to enter nursing school, the committee members present were shocked and looked at each other. In desperation, Emma quickly added that she was grateful to the committee for providing clothes for herself and her sister all year round. It was this warmth of providing help in times of need that gave her the idea of helping others. She longs to go to nursing school just so that she can help more people in deep suffering in the future. As soon as this statement, which was in line with the committee's value orientation, came out, the tense atmosphere suddenly eased. The committee members also showed approving looks. Her mother had long been branded by the entire village as an immoral woman. This defined stigma turned into a thick shadow that has been haunting Emma. She knew that in order to receive the bonus, she would have to appear impeccable in front of the committee. So when asked about her mother, she could only echo it against her will, saying that her mother was a bad woman. It's not that she hates her mother that much. She's just too aware of this set of strict moral rules. Only by speaking according to their standards can she seize the opportunity to change her destiny. After the review, Emma went back downstairs and started today's work. She worked as a helper at the pastor's house all year round, and became good friends with the pastor's daughter Colette, who talked about everything. The two of them longed to go to the same nursing school, just as they were happily thinking about their future campus life. The man who changed Emma's fate appeared at the pastor's house. He is Louis, a reporter from the city. Louis was born into a middle-class family in Geneva. Through his father's relationship, he met many well-known journalists and became interested in news writing. He was especially good at portraying the lives of working people at the bottom of society, as well as the delicate beauty of rural scenery. This time, he had come to the pastor's home as a guest to gather local color for a feature column. Emma had never met a man with such a broad vision. There is a unique charm in everything he says and does. That calmness is not only based on the experience of traveling all over the country, but also cannot be separated from the nourishment of a good family background. This also made the girl's heart throb like never before. She had never felt this way about any man before. After obtaining the permission of the pastor and his wife, Emma and Colette accompanied Louis to the mountains to collect scenery. Louis even took a solo photo just for Emma, making her heart race in spite of herself. Others were exhausted and unwilling to continue walking higher, but Emma couldn't ignore Louis's hand reaching out to her, and followed him to the top of the mountain alone. That single moment of hesitation became a regret she would carry for the rest of her life. When he climbed to a remote and uninhabited place on the hillside, Louis deliberately pretended to be unsteady on his feet. Then, as if it were some harmless prank, he pulled Emma down and stole a kiss while she was completely unprepared. Emma was still frozen in the panic of having her first kiss taken from her. Before she could react, Lewis ignored her pushing and struggling and assaulted her. Overwhelming shame swallowed Emma whole, but Lewis, who caused all this, acted as if nothing had happened, just now. 2 days later, he was ready to leave without any guilt, treating Emma as an insignificant pastime. Emma didn't dare to tell anyone about this, so she could only bear all the grievances and tears alone. However, a month later, she suddenly found that her menstruation was delayed and accompanied by bouts of nausea. She knew she must be pregnant. Her mother would rush to the church every week during services just to catch a glimpse of the three sisters. Emma had never wanted to say a word to her before, but today she took the initiative to come over. Perhaps it was her mother's unintentional smile that cut off Emma's desire to talk. After all, she was unable to speak and tell the truth about her pregnancy, but she still found out the truth about the past from her mother. Back then, it was her father who had cruelly driven her mother out and cut off her way home. After knowing the whole truth, Emma finally felt relieved. But the most important thing right now is to find the child's biological father, Lewis. She was penniless and couldn't raise travel expenses, so she went into the woods alone, laid traps to catch hares, and then sold them at the market. After that, she secretly went to the pastor's study, copied the address Lewis left when he sent the photos, and got on the train to Geneva that day. Along the way, Emma's heart was always on edge, not knowing what outcome was waiting for her. In fact, Lewis's cold attitude after the incident already foreshadowed the answer. In his mind, it did not even count as an assault. Lewis is a city dweller from a privileged background, with a glorious and respectable career and a superior class status. When he writes about rural areas and working people at the bottom, his words are full of tenderness, but in reality, he can easily crush all the dignity of a country girl. From the bottom of his heart, he despises the girl from a rural background, tramples on the admiration in the girl's eyes, and has no empathy at all. In a conservative country, such harm to a girl would be a stain that could destroy her entire life. But his next response hit Emma even harder when she was already isolated and helpless. She stood anxiously at the door of a magnificent mansion, just asking to see the rich young man who had ruined her innocence, but she was dressed in coarse cloth clothes that had turned white from washing, and the servants immediately classified her into different grades. The other party arrogantly drove her to wait at the side door reserved for servants. After she finally saw the person she had come for, the young master appeared with a fashionably dressed wealthy young woman beside him. Lewis made an excuse to send the rich lady away, but turned around with a guarded look on his face, showing no intention of inviting Emma in.
Je suis enceinte.
As soon as the girl finished speaking, the color on the man's face instantly faded away. He hurriedly pulled her aside, lowered his voice and asked impatiently what she wanted.
Je veux pas te choquer, mais un homme peut jamais être certain d'être le père. Ma famille a un peu de bien, et je dis pas ça pour toi bien sûr, mais il y en a qui pourraient profiter de la situation.
Emma's slap was not just the grief and anger of a poor girl who had been humiliated, it is also a sharp crack that cuts through the unsightly class oppression and indifference of humanity under the aura of neutrality in Switzerland during World War II. Faced with Emma's plea for help, Lewis's first reaction was to think about financial loss. He also used the excuse that he could not confirm whether it was his own child to shirk all responsibility. The last sentence seemed to be comforting, but in fact it was a condescending contempt. Those who commit harm are left unscathed, do not have to pay any price for their atrocities, and can continue to live a decent life. But the victims who are suffering have no one to rely on and can only hide in the countryside to digest the pain silently.
Colette, je n'ai pas saigné ce mois-ci. Mais qu'est-ce que tu veux dire? Mais qui? Louis.
In the entire village, the only person Emma can confide in is her friend Colette. The friendship between the two is pure and sincere. Colette always loves and accompanies Emma, but cannot truly heal the suffering she has experienced. Just when Emma was most helpless, the moral award she had been looking forward to most finally came to fruition. The Mutual Aid Committee voted unanimously, and the morality award fell into her hands as she wished. The whole village praised her for being wholly insensible. But now in Emma's eyes, this honor has become a sharp mockery. In order to prevent the pregnancy from being exposed, in the dead of night, Emma found a piece of iron wire and placed it on a lit kerosene lamp to bake and disinfect it. Then, in desperation, she tried to end the pregnancy herself before the child had even formed. Following a burst of heartbreaking pain, Emma fainted and lost consciousness. When she woke up, she was already lying at the doctor's house. After learning about Emma's pregnancy, the doctor, who was a member of the Mutual Aid Committee, felt extremely ashamed and embarrassed. But if this got out, the whole village would accuse them of misjudging her and giving the morality award to a girl they considered ruined. After weighing it, he could only suppress the matter. At the same time, He sternly warned Emma that trying to end the pregnancy in secret had already broken the law. In Switzerland in the 1940s, it was a crime for pregnant women to have abortions on their own or with the help of a doctor. Both parties faced penalties of imprisonment and hefty fines. Emma had no choice but to keep the child. Her mother had been thrown out by her father for one act of betrayal. She knew that once her father learned about her pregnancy, he would not be able to handle the rumors in the village and would eventually drive her away. With nowhere left to turn, Emma could only find a way out on her own, and the only one who can help her escape now is Paul, who has always liked her. Emma didn't say too many words, just one look and one movement, which conveyed the signal of accepting Paul. She did not deliberately hide it, but told the truth about her pregnancy. Fortunately, Paul said he would treat the child as his own flesh and blood. It was this promise that made Emma's hanging heart fall to the ground, but no one knew that she didn't love the man who was about to become her husband at all. The night before the engagement, she took the trouble to teach her sister how to needle and embroider. She repeatedly told her sister to carve out her own path and never give up any opportunity to learn and get ahead. On the day of the engagement, the whole village came to witness this happy moment. The prize money belonging to Emma was also awarded at the same time. It's just that this award was not delivered directly to her hands, but was used as a dowry and handed over to her future marriage. From this moment on, Emma already knew that her dream of being a nurse for many years was completely shattered. To be precise, from the moment her innocence was destroyed and she discovered she was pregnant, she had lost the qualification to pursue her ideals. That day, her mother rushed back from the city, ignoring the villagers' disdainful looks, just to witness her daughter's important moment with her own eyes. Emma, who was full of fear about the future, finally said what she had not said last time. Emma's mother herself was trapped in a loveless marriage, so after meeting the man she fell in love with, she impulsively betrayed her family. Because of this decision, she paid a heavy price. She was judged and condemned by the entire village, then thrown out by her husband. With no other choice, she went to the city alone and made a living in a heavy, oppressive factory. She is well aware of the suffering of being trapped in a loveless marriage, but she insists on persuading her daughter to accept a husband she doesn't like. This is not only out of concern for a mother's face, but also because she has personally experienced the weight of rumors. She knew in her heart that for a girl who became pregnant out of wedlock, the harsh punishment and judgment would be far more cruel than when she betrayed her marriage. After the marriage, Emma gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Paul truly did what he had promised before the wedding, treating the child as his own. Every day when he came home, he held the baby in his arms and could hardly bear to let go. Paul showed what it meant to love the child because he loved the mother. This is also the only comfort Emma has left in this marriage. But every night, he began making endless demands, forcing Emma to fulfill what he saw as her duties as a wife. Every moment of intimacy seemed to reopen the scars of her violation. Even though her heart was full of resistance, Emma just tolerated it silently. However, marriage can never be sustained by compromise alone. What's more, the attitude of Paul and his family gradually began to change, and Emma was almost breathless under the pressure. Using a loveless marriage to cover up the scandal of an unmarried pregnancy protected Emma from gossip on the surface, but in reality, it only pulled her out of one swamp and pushed her into an airless prison. The perpetrator does not have to pay any price for his fault. As a victim, Emma is forced to give up all her ideals and self. This twisted and unfair logic mirrors the so-called neutrality of Switzerland during World War II. The historical backdrop of the story, although it claims to be far away from the war, it seals the border and returns undocumented refugees to German-occupied areas, pushing them to a desperate situation. Individual tragedy echoes the darkness of the times here, fully demonstrating the oppression of the weak at the bottom by rules. However, even in such a special era, Emma never bowed to fate. She always tried her best to find a different way out for herself in a desperate situation. She never dreamed that she would become a prisoner after getting married. Her husband had to check the letters she exchanged with her best friend one by one and make sure they were all right before handing them over to her.
Cette fois, Colette a été acceptée à l'école d'infirmière. Ça te fait plaisir pour ton ami. Écris-lui pour la féliciter.
Even for something as trivial as writing a reply to a friend, Emma has to seek permission from her husband first. She has been suffering in such a suffocating and depressing marriage for more than a year. She was always grateful that Paul had been willing to accept a child with no blood relation to him and give her a place away from gossip. But after she actually got married, life was completely different from what she imagined. There is no doubt that Paul cared for Emma and showed genuine kindness to her child. But that tenderness slowly became another shackle binding Emma down. He grew up in a remote rural area, and his old ideas have long been ingrained in his bones. In his opinion, a married woman should stay at home, take care of the housework, and lived dependent on men. Because of this, after marriage, Emma was firmly trapped in the family, and even the right to work outside the home was completely deprived. It's not like Emma didn't struggle. She had actively fought for it many times, hoping that her parents-in-law would relent and her husband would be considerate. In the end, all the efforts were in vain. If the news of Colette's admission hadn't spread, she might have continued to live a tormented life. The nursing dream that had once been within reach, together with Paul's increasingly troubling behavior, strengthened her determination to fight back. In the past, whenever Paul got home, the first thing he did was to hold the child in his arms, but now even if the child cried loudly, he seemed not to see it. He also mentioned many times that he wanted to have a biological child of theirs. The numerous changes before her eyes made Emma very clear that he still minded after all. Regardless of whether Paul's grudge is still there, Emma has no say in this family. So in the early morning when everyone was still asleep, Emma picked up a simple suitcase, hugged the child tightly, and quietly escaped from the family that trapped her. She went straight to the city to join her mother. Emma's mother herself struggled in a loveless marriage, but years of poverty and loneliness have dulled her spirit. She knew all too well the price of resistance and could not bear her daughter to repeat her own suffering. But when she heard Emma sob that she would rather die than go back, a mother's fear immediately overwhelmed her. She brought Emma back to the cramped rental room, picked up her grandson, and gently placed him on the only bed. Although the house is simple, for Emma, it is a rare place to relax since she got married. After a moment of respite, cruel survival problems ensued. The mother's meager salary alone cannot support the daily expenses of the three of them. To make sure someone could always look after the child, Emma took the night shift at her mother's factory. In this way, the mother and daughter work in shifts, and the children will not be left unsupervised. During the rare free time during the day, Emma walked along the street with her child in her arms to see if she could find other ways to make money. By chance, she saw a shawl displayed in a shop window, and it was one she had embroidered with her own hands, but she clearly remembered that she had never sold these shawls previously. Emma used embroidery to please the pastor's wife and embroidered a shawl for her for free, just in exchange for her recognition and favor. To her surprise, the pastor's wife had passed the finished piece off as her own handiwork and sold it to the shop. But it was precisely this incident that gave Emma, who was trapped in a hopeless life, a new way out. The shop owner did not believe that a country girl had superb embroidery skills. Emma immediately came up with a plan. She would make a finished piece herself and bring it to the shop. She lived frugally and saved up her wages to buy silk thread. During the day, while caring for her child, she buried herself in embroidery. Seeing that there was hope in life, her husband from the countryside suddenly came to the door.
Il faut que tu reviennes.
Non.
Je suis ton mari, tu dois me suivre.
Tu m'as sauvé de la honte. Je te remercie du plus profond de mon âme. Je ne reviendrai pas.
Alors j'emmène Marcel.
J'ai jamais voulu.
Paul suppressed his anger and promised Emma that as long as she was willing to go home, he would allow her to find a job near home. Emma might still believe such rhetoric before getting married, but he had also once said he would treat the child as his own. And in the end, that too had become nothing more than temporary comfort. Paul never understood women's desire for ideals, and he couldn't sympathize with Emma's obsession with independence. Deep down, he saw his wife and child as possessions of his own. Once Emma refused to obey, he threatened to take away the child's family name and cut off all financial support. Emma wasn't afraid of this. From the moment she fled that home, she had made up her mind to raise the child alone. However, Paul's last threat to never see his sister again gripped her heart tightly. Paul had no right to cut off the communication between their sisters. His real trump card is to spread the news throughout the village that Emma is pregnant out of wedlock. Once rumors spread, she will repeat her mother's mistake of being shunned by the whole village. This is the truly chilling plan behind the sentence of severing the sisters from seeing each other. After she was assaulted, Emma chose silence to protect her reputation. After becoming pregnant, she became even more frightened and fearful of being drowned in rumors. But after experiencing that short-term suffocating marriage, she finally fully awakened. She doesn't want to live dependent on anyone, let alone survive in the judgment of the world. She did not obey Paul's expectations and returned to that depressing home. She just wiped away her tears silently and raced against time to embroider a beautiful shawl and take it to the store.
Tu es déjà venu, n'est-ce pas? Oui.
Je t'en donne 50 francs.
J'en veux 100. C'est extrêmement long à broder.
60. Mais oui, je t'en prendrai sûrement d'autres.
Alors vous me faites une avance.
Je t'en prendrai au moins 3. Reviens quand tu les auras finis.
The price of a shawl is much higher than Emma's weekly salary. After some haggling, each shawl was sold for 60 francs. The income from just 3 shawls was already a huge sum for Emma. Not only Emma, but also her mother never thought that finished embroidery products could be sold directly to stores. Now, they had finally found a reliable way to make a living. Emma's embroidery skills were taught step by step by her mother, and both mother and daughter are very skilled in their skills. With regular sales, they can earn money by doing embroidery at home and take care of their children at the same time. They no longer have to work late shifts in factories and suffer harassment from foremen. Life is completely new. As their livelihoods became more stable, the mother and daughter gradually had extra money in their hands, and they could occasionally go out for entertainment. The past that was criticized and scorned by the villagers all disappeared in the music and laughter. There is no fierce shouting or open confrontation in the entire story. All the power is hidden in the quiet image of Emma lowering her head to embroider, turning away from a suffocating marriage, and walking into the factory alone. The same set of embroidery skills is a tool to please others when you are submissive, but it is the confidence to support yourself after independence. In an era when women were taught to be tolerant all over the world, Emma did not compromise. She took firm control of the value of her own labor, and with her very life as her weapon, she completed a fight for her rights.